Hello, and happy Taco Tuesday. I was just sharing on Instagram that we're going live. So, if you do any of the live streams on your YouTube channel or on your Facebook group, wherever you do your live streams, then I recommend putting out an Instagram story like right when you're going live. Yeah, I could do it where I remind people a lot more in advance, but to be really honest, I don't remember to remind people until right before it goes live. So I've been trying to get better at telling you that I'm going live before I go live. I even scheduled this. I'm like, hang on, let me toot my own horn here for a second. I scheduled this live 2 days in advance. Normally I do it like the afternoon before or the morning of, if I remember. So I felt really good about this. I was like, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So hopefully we would have more people here. So if you are joining us live, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where everybody is. We usually have some people from all over the US and internationally that are watching us here live. And I'd love to know if you're watching in the replay as well, because we always have a ton of fun here. So we are talking about, hang on, I wanted to make sure all this went. Yep, it's good to go. Today we are talking about your content creation questions. And I'm just so excited, y'all. Today is one of those podcast episodes that I feel like I needed way back in the day whenever I first got started, because y'all, we're gonna hit a nerve today. We're gonna hit a nerve today, and you're gonna say, "Oh my gosh, this is me." I've been meaning to, I really needed, I needed this. I needed this, especially after the first time you had an interview like on your podcast, on your live stream, wherever. Y'all, I see these little flyaways. I get comments about this camera. It's like, oh, your camera's so clear. And then I'm like, yeah, but also you can see all the little things that I wish you couldn't see that drive me crazy. Sorry, we got a little distracted. But if you've had an interview, then you get excited and you share it with your guest. You're like, oh my gosh, here's your interview is live today. Are you so excited? Then you hear crickets. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And they don't tell anybody. You don't see them share on their content and on, like, maybe you follow them on Instagram. They don't mention it on there. They don't say it in their stories. They don't email their list. They don't tell anybody about them being a guest on your podcast. And you get so frustrated. You get so frustrated. Y'all come to me. I have podcasters come to me all the time and say, how do I get my guests to share the fact that they were on my podcast? How do I get them to? That is the whole inspiration behind today's podcast episode. So go listen to it. How to get guests to share the content, to share your content. But hey, let me say hello to everybody. Hello, Monique is in Mississippi. So happy that you're here. Mississippi, right? I'm like, hang on. I just got my date. Yeah, I was thinking Massachusetts there for a second. I'm like, wait, Massachusetts is MA. Y'all, please don't. Geography is not my strong suit. I could sit here and tell you all the improper ways that I think about geography, but I'm like, that's Mississippi. That's what that is. I had a little mini panic attack there, but no, we're good. We're all good. Let me scoot this back a little bit. Yes. Monique's like, yes, Crystal, I'm not in Massachusetts. That's Mississippi. So yeah, just a little mini panic attack. Monique is one of our regulars that comes up to the live stream. So thank you so much, Monique, for having my back. Letting me know, like, no, Crystal, you just don't. So I have a kindergartner, a fourth grader, and a seventh grader, and they'll come home and they'll ask questions, and I'm like, I'm supposed to know that. I feel like I should know this, but I don't realize how much information I learned in school, but have forgotten until my kids come home and ask me a question. The other day, my seventh grader was talking about the Pythagorean theorem, and I was like, oh, I know those words. I'm supposed to know what that is, but off the top of my head, I'm like, nope, Nope, it's not coming to me. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, the education system does, it doesn't all stay there. Only the important things. So yeah, yeah. Hi, everybody. So happy that you're here. Hello to our friends on YouTube. Yes. Oh, thank you so much. So happy that y'all are here. We are talking about the issues that people have when they come to me and say, I can't get my guests to share a podcast interview, or maybe it was a YouTube live stream. And one of the things, this was actually a YouTube video on the channel that we recently did. We aired it yesterday, but I tied it into today's podcast episode because it's just so important. It's so important to talk about. So I'm going to share on my screen. So if you go to the link, if you go to the link that's on the screen, crystalprofit.com/episode 334, that's where you're going to find today's show notes. And if you scroll down, here it is. You're going to find the YouTube video where we talked about this as well. So this one is about, I don't remember how long this one is. Here, let me click on it. Have you ever been it's 12 minutes. So the YouTube video is about 12 minutes long, but the podcast episode is right around 30 minutes. And I go a lot more into detail about some specific examples in the podcast episode. But this is actually, while we're talking about content strategy, content creation, and y'all post your questions in the chat. Let me pop this up here. So put a Q in front of any content creation questions you have, whether it's about your podcast, your YouTube channel, planning content, whatever it has to do with content strategy, put them in the chat. But this today is a great example of how to repurpose a YouTube video into a podcast episode or vice versa. This is something that I have had many of my friends say, you're a master at this. How do you actually make this work? How do you make this happen? And it's practice. One, like first and foremost, it's practice. It's a lot of content, we're about to hit. So on the Potty Report, this is my daily podcast. If you have never heard me talk about it, I don't always bring it up. This is the Potty Report. You can check it out right here. But we're about to hit 500 episodes this week, which is crazy. And on the Profit Podcast, we just hit 334 episodes. And I think that I've uploaded about 300-ish I know I've done at least 200 episodes or 200 videos on my YouTube channel. It's a lot of content. It's a lot of content, but that has helped me understand how to best like rework all of my content strategies into one another. And what I mean by that is I don't just pull ideas out of thin air anymore. I typically will get them from the live streams, like what we're doing here. I will have great questions that come up in the chat, or I will have someone reach out on Instagram about a recent podcast episode, or someone in our Facebook group will ask a question, and that's where content will come from. And whenever I see a great opportunity, for example, today's topic, I was like, man, my YouTube audience would really get a lot out of this, as well as the podcast audience, because I'm not a fan of taking something that is audio only and then making it visual, like where you just put your podcast artwork up on YouTube. That is a way that you can get your YouTube channel started and get podcast content out there. But I'm a fan of taking something and applying it specifically to each platform, even if it's repurposed. Does that make sense? So I've taken the same concept and I've created individual pieces of content, one for YouTube and one for the podcast. So even though the type of the thing that I'm talking about, it overlaps 100%, but it's not the exact same piece of content. Does that make sense? Are y'all with me? Do y'all get this? Are you jiving with what I'm saying? Like, tell me in the chat that you're like, yep, I'm here. I'm with you. I get this, because I don't think that performance is the same, like the content, like if you want it to perform across all different types of channels, you're going to have to cater it to each specific type of channel. That doesn't mean that you have to go and create 20 different things. It just means maybe you have to plan it out and then decide, okay, if I plan it out like this, I can use this portion of my outline and put it over here. Actually, I'm trying to think where I planned this. I think I did it. And I have to figure out, I wish my friend Mel was here. I recently got an iPad. Okay. And I have not had an iPad. I've never had an iPad, actually. This is my first iPad. I don't have like, oh, I had a generation whatever. And now, no, I've never had an iPad. And I am trying to figure out, I know that there's a way that I can connect this to StreamYard. And then that way you could see it like it's an extra screen. We did this last week and I totally messed everything up. So I'm not going to do it today where I join. Yeah, if you want to go see the faux pas from last week's live stream, you can go see where I had the iPad connected and I was using it as a camera. And then I accidentally kicked everybody out and I ended the stream and it was a whole ordeal. I didn't even want to talk about it. Okay. I'm just, yeah, it was a bad deal. But I planned this episode. Where is it? I have this app. It's called Nebo. Never heard of it before I got this, but I started looking up. I have an iPad pencil. I was like, oh, what are some of the apps that I can use to make this work? And so what I did is it looks like just a regular document. But what's cool is, and I'm going to turn you this way so you can see. I can write and it will show up. Super cool, right? Y'all, my handwriting is terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm spitting everywhere. It's so awful. But can you see where it shows that here, let me do it this way. So I can write and it'll show up. So you see how like the text converts right above it? It's pretty amazing because I love, if you've watched previous videos, previous trainings, you'll see I like normally have notebooks everywhere. So I like the idea that I can use a pen and I can write on it. All that to say, this is how I planned this content. I wrote down all the different ideas that I would use for the podcast and for the YouTube video. And I kind of separated them like, hey, this, I can take portions of it here and I can put it as a podcast episode and I could take this chunk and put it in the YouTube video because I will typically have shorter YouTube videos than I do with the podcast. I like them to be quick, actionable, and I like it to be where if anybody stumbles upon my content, one, they'll know that I mean business and I just get straight to the point. I don't have a lot of fluffy extra stuff in my videos. I do introduce myself and say, hey, if you're trying to create content with confidence or you're trying to be a content creator, whether that's podcast, YouTube, I do go into that whole spiel in my videos, but then I get like right into it and I do demonstrations, I do tutorial videos, this is the type of content I create. This isn't for everybody. Okay. Let me just throw that out there. This is not, if you're trying to like figure out like your jive with your content, you don't have to do things the way that I do. And I wish someone would have told me that whenever I first started following a lot of these people online. I thought, well, that's how they do it. That's the only way to do it. Or that's how I should do it. It's not true. It's not true. And there are no rules when it comes to content creation. Oh my gosh, I cannot say this enough. And this is something that I've said forever for podcasting. And that is there's no rules. There's guidelines. Let's call them guidelines, little bunny ears. There's no rules. There are no rules. There, I said it. Do you need me to like shout it from the rooftops? There are no rules. There are suggestions. There are certain ways that maybe you can approach content. But if tomorrow I decided, you know what, I think I want to take my podcast and I want to start airing episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they're going to be 15 minutes instead of 30 or 45 minutes. And then I think I want to have an interview every other episode. And then I want to like all of these things, the formatting changes that I would make, I could do all of that. No one's going to tell me no. I'm not going to get a slap on the wrist, but I just want to give you that permission that if you're looking for it, like, oh, I have to do it this certain way, there's there's no there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just you showing up and what's going to work best for you and your audience and how you want to create content. So, yeah, went on a little tangent there, but it's really how I feel. Hi, Sunny. So happy that you're here. Yeah, no rules. No rules when it comes to content creation, y'all. Oh, hang on. Before we get too much further into today's video chat, live stream, whatever you want to call our little hangout session here today. I would say coffee chat, but I don't have any coffee here. I just have my handy dandy water. But it's Taco Tuesday. And it is a special Taco Tuesday because it's 2/22/22 on a Tuesday. I saw that the kids came home, like, or I guess they don't come home with the flyers. They used to always come home with all this paper, right? All these paper in their backpacks. And now it comes as a text message and it's just digital clutter. Instead of paper, like physical clutter, it's digital clutter that comes in and it's like, hey, don't forget, like, go click on this thing and it'll route you to this other newsletter. Like, yes, if you have kids that are in school right now, you get it. You feel me? Like all the different things that they do to inform you of all, especially when you have multiple children, you're like, wait, who is this for? Which campus is this? Which teacher is this? Like, it gets to be too much sometimes. But today I had just looked this morning and they're like, oh, we're doing something special for 2/22/22. And I was like, oh, y'all aren't going to do anything because I totally forgot. But now I know, and I can tell everybody else that it's this special day that, because who writes the date down? I mean, I do. I say that, but I do. Whenever I journal in the morning, I write the date down. And then I predate my little planner here. So I don't write the date every day. But it was so funny. I was like, oh, well, it's 2/22/22. Doesn't really mean anything to me, but okay, that's what it is today. And then of course I have to bring Rita. This is Rita. If you have not met her, she is fabulous and she represents all things that are amazing about Taco Tuesday. So let me know what questions y'all have in the chat. I really was just going to come here and we were talking about how you can get your guests to share your content whenever they are not sharing. It's so frustrating. I feel you. I see you. I'm trying to think of the other things that we were talking about in the podcast because I'm like, just go listen to the podcast. If you have not heard it before, I have the Profit Podcast. This is, I always point like real wonky because I see it on the screen as this way, but right here, the Profit Podcast is my weekly show where we have episodes every Tuesday and Thursday that come out. It's so much fun, y'all. I love podcasting. I'm going to be going out of town. Oh, we need to talk about this because I probably won't be able to do next week's live stream. Now that I'm thinking about this, I actually have to go out of town. I have to go to a funeral, unfortunately, next week. And I have a lot of content batching that need to happen over the next few days to prepare for my trip to go out of town. And I just keep thinking about how it's kind of cyclical throughout the month where I get these surges where I just want to record a whole bunch of podcast episodes. It's really strange, but I think that that's also the beauty of batching, to where if you create all this content like in a specific amount of time, yes, it's hard. Sometimes it's exhausting to create 5 or 6 podcast episodes back to back to back. But then when you're done, like you have this concentrated amount of work, energy, effort, and then it's done. Then when you come back to it 3 weeks later, or however many weeks you take off because you batch your content and then you come back to it, it's so refreshing to come back with a clean slate. And you're like, I actually miss this. I miss recording episodes. So I want you to think about your content that way. Like if it's right now, you're like, I record a podcast episode or record a YouTube video every single week, and you're on this hamster wheel of constantly just creating, uploading, creating, uploading, creating and uploading. I really encourage you to find a content batching strategy that works for you. And I'm actually working on a new YouTube video. Let me see if I can pull up the other one. I have a YouTube video right now that is all about, let me see. I'm going to get this pulled up. So if you go, here we go. So this is the YouTube channel. And if you go over here to batch, this is really the main video that I have about batching your podcast, but I'm going to be doing an updated version for not just podcasts, but how I batch all of my content, like how I plan it, how I plan out my recording days. Like it's going to be a really in-depth tutorial. So I would love it if you would put any questions in the comments that have to do with batching, because those would be super, super helpful, because it's going to be a pretty robust video. I've already done other videos around creating outlines and all the project management tools and everything that I do. But yeah, I would love to know if y'all have any questions about batching, whether you're watching live or you're watching on the replay, put those in the chat. But really, that's all I have for y'all today. So if we don't have any questions, I'm actually going to hop off early because I have a bunch of interviews. Speaking of batching, I am batching. Let me look at, this is y'all, we were talking about batching. You want to know how many interviews I'm doing this week? Hang on, let me count them because I had them earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I have 9. I have 9 interviews I'm batching this week, which just so happens to turn out to be perfect because I have to go out of town next week, and that gives me tons of content to work with. I would rather have all of this content batched and edit it, work with it behind the scenes, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I'm going out of town and I have to record. Like recording on the road is so much more stressful than just editing and uploading and publishing, like doing all the behind the scenes stuff. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. I'm going to be recording more YouTube videos, recording more podcast episodes so that I can go out of town in the next few days. But that's all I have for y'all. So again, happy Taco Tuesday. I don't even know. I don't know if that was enough Taco Tuesdays, but yeah, it just felt like it was good. Yeah, sure. I did 2 back-to-back interviews last weekend and I thought I was doing something. Yes, like it's definitely aspirational, Monique. We have a lot of interviews. And again, this comes from doing this for a really long time. It's been a while. This is 4 years into doing podcasting. 9 interviews is highly aspirational. I remember when I used to have 2 in a day and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to pass out. It's way too much. It was a lot. It was a lot to do. But you get better and you keep going and you keep it up because we all have to start somewhere, right? That is the motto around here. But good luck with the rest of your batching. Y'all let me know if y'all have any other questions about batching and we may just feature them. If you're not in our Facebook group, let me put that up here. We would love to have you right here. So you can go to crystalprofit.com/podcast community, and that will redirect you to our Facebook group, which is where Monique is hanging out. And she's actually going to be joining us on the podcast. So one of my interviews this week is with Monique. I'm doing some free coaching sessions that will air on the Profit Podcast in the coming months. So if you want to have other cool opportunities to engage with us and, just hang out with other content creators, come hang out with us in our free Facebook group, crystalprofit.com/podcast community. We would love to have you. But that's all I have for y'all today. Y'all have a fantastic Taco Tuesday. I think I did that right. If not, it's okay. It doesn't even matter. It's fine. Y'all have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.